Arya walked slowly down the cemetery path, a crumpled letter clutched in her shaking hands. Her steps were heavy, her heart filled with a sadness that seemed to have no end. When she reached her father's grave, she stopped, staring at the framed photo of him smiling. It was the face of a man she loved more than anything, a man who had always tried to protect her, even when things between them had become difficult. Arya knelt with difficulty, feeling the cold of the stone beneath her knees. With tears streaming down her face, she placed the letter on the gravestone, seeking comfort in the gesture, but only feeling an even deeper emptiness. Before continuing, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so as not to miss other such touching stories. Arya slept little that night. Her dreams were confused, invaded by images of the past, of her father, Daniele, and of those moments when everything seemed simpler. When she woke up the next morning, her heart was heavy with an indefinite pain, but that day would have something extraordinary in store for her. It was a cold October day, and Arya got out of bed with her mind still foggy. She decided to return to the cemetery to seek some peace, an explanation for the turmoil that continued to tighten her soul. As she walked among the graves, something strange caught her attention. The letter she had left the day before was no longer there. In its place was a small piece of paper, carefully folded, that seemed to have appeared out of nowhere. With shaking hands, she took it and opened it. The words were few, but incisive. "I am always with you. I have never abandoned you." Arya sat on the grave, shocked. It was her father's handwriting. If this story is moving you, leave a like now. In shock, Arya ran home. She couldn't believe what she had seen. How could her father, who had been dead for 3 years, have left her a message? Was it a cruel prank? But who would do that, and why? All day, those thoughts consumed her. Arya was 26 years old, a young woman at the end of her university studies. She had graduated in classics and dreamed of becoming a teacher. She had always loved books and writing, a passion that she had inherited from her father, Daniele, who loved to read and write. But despite her love for literature, her personal life was marked by a deep sadness, a melancholy that had accompanied her since childhood. Daniele had been a complex man, affectionate but often distant, especially after the divorce from his mother, Anna. When Arya was little, he was always there. He took her to the park, read to her before bed, encouraged her to follow her dreams. But after the divorce, everything changed. The physical distance between them had also become an emotional distance. Daniele worked as a craftsman, managing a small workshop where he created custom furniture. Work absorbed him completely, and although he tried to maintain a relationship with his daughter, commitments and responsibilities increasingly distanced him. Over time, Arya's visits to her father's workshop became increasingly rare. His mother, Anna, a strong woman but marked by life's disappointments, did nothing but criticize her ex-husband. Often, in Arya's presence, she described him as a failure, a man incapable of taking care of his family. This left a deep scar in Arya's heart, who felt she had to choose between her love for her father and her loyalty to her mother. Thus, an unbridgeable distance began to grow between her and Daniele. Despite the pain of that separation, Daniele never stopped loving his daughter. Every time he spoke to her, he tried to get closer, but something inside him seemed to break every time he saw in Arya's eyes a distance that he couldn't fill. However, fate had decided to intervene in an unexpected way. One day, Arya received an urgent phone call from her mother. "Your father had an accident," Anna said, her voice broken by emotion. Aria's world seemed to stop. Without thinking twice, she took the first car and rushed to the hospital. When she arrived, she was told that Danielle was in critical condition, suspended between life and death. She walked into the hospital room, shaking. The sight before her was heartbreaking. Her father, a once strong and vigorous man, lay pale and still in the hospital bed, hooked up to machines that monitored his vital signs. Aria slowly approached him, tears falling steadily. She took Daniele's hand, trying to feel connected to him again. "Dad, I'm here," she whispered, her voice cracking. The next few days were a blur of medical updates, dashed hopes, and endless moments of waiting. Daniele was in a coma, and the doctors couldn't say if he would ever wake up. Aria, devastated by the uncertainty, spent hours at his side, talking to her father as if he could hear her. She told him about her studies, her dreams, and finally, she confessed everything she had kept inside for so many years. One afternoon, while reading an old letter she had written for him during her childhood, she felt a light pressure on her hand. She looked up, incredulous. Daniel was opening his eyes. His gaze was confused but full of love. "You are here," he whispered in a weak voice. "Yes, Dad, I'm here. I'm never leaving you again," Aria replied, choking back tears. That moment, that small gesture, was a new beginning for her. Have you ever experienced such an intense moment of reconciliation? Tell us in the comments. I want to hear your story. In the days that followed, Daniele began a slow but steady recovery journey. He and Aria spent hours talking, telling stories and laughing together, like they hadn't done in years. The distance that had separated them for so long finally seemed to dissolve. Daniele committed to physical therapy with a determination Aria had never seen in him before. She didn't want to miss the opportunity to rebuild her relationship with her daughter. As Daniele recovered his strength, so did his bond with Aria. They decided to no longer let time and life separate them. Aria spent every weekend with her father, discovering sides of him that she had never known. Daniele, for example, was an exceptional cook, and he prepared delicious meals that brought them together around the kitchen table, laughing and talking late into the night. Over time, Anna, Aria's mother, also decided to bury her grudges. Admitting her mistakes, she spoke openly with her daughter, asking for forgiveness for the times she had let her anger towards Daniele affect their relationship. That conversation marked a new beginning between mother and daughter as well. Finally, after months of hard work, Danielle was released from the hospital. Aria threw a small party to celebrate her father's return home. At that moment, with the family reunited, Aria realized that despite the lost time and the hardships, the future could still hold happy moments. They all had a second chance, and none of them wanted to waste it. Aria's graduation came shortly after. Sitting in the front row, Daniele clapped proudly as his daughter received her diploma with honors. To Aria, having his support on that momentous day meant the world. It was proof that love and family can overcome any obstacle.